throwing us up on YouTube in 3, 2, 1.
It is Thursday and time for another episode of Market Overdrive. Thank you so much for hanging out with us every Thursday, following us on YouTube as well as Instagram, which thank you, Zach, for doing such a great job with posting our information on Instagram. And for those of you who hang out with us on Facebook, thank you for sharing our videos. As always, with me, my co-host. What's your name, sir?
Nick Memeti.
How's it going, Mr. Memeti?
It's going good. How you doing?
You're
It's
looking
warm.
a
It's like
little
70 degrees.
busy over there. Look at that facial
I've had a
hair.
very busy day. I haven't been in the office. I've been in and out from project to issue to issue. So today's actually kind of a day off for me. So excuse the mess.
I mean, you got like
This is the
coffee over there.
This is my work mode situation where I am like all over the place from one errand to another, but I am here and that's all that matters.
A lot of internet geeks say that they don't wear suits specifically because they don't care about the attire that they wear because they're so busy making money. Is that the case for you, Mr. Memeti?
No, sometimes you just got to get grimy and do some stuff that's not going to be very, you don't know what you're going to walk into. So
You're doing
if
labor
you're going to a
stuff?
construction site or if you're going to check on some things or you're going to be in a car all day long, get casual. It's fine. But I'm here for a show, and I guess that's all that matters because it's what comes out of my mouth that's important.
I suppose. But let's talk to somebody who really has something awesome to say. How are you, Mo?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. A little upset at you.
Why upset at me?
All this loving, all that
Oh,
relationship.
the hashtag memo.
Memo.
What is that? What is
Memeti
that?
and
What
Mo.
is it? What
We
about
hashtag
Karla?
memo.
Hashtag memo.
We tried to do
Carmo?
Carmimo.
You clearly didn't get the hashtag memo.
We tried hashtag Carmimo and it didn't work.
It didn't work. It sounded bad.
It's fine. I don't care. I grew up with 4 boys, so I've been bullied before. I'm used to it. What's our topic today, Mo?
Well, apparently it's the how should I say this? The 800-pound gorilla called Zillow.
Who came up with that stupid topic?
It wasn't me. I was gonna call it a 3-pound chimpanzee.
Or like just
I don't-
label
I don't know
or
if-
name.
I really don't think Zillow is a stupid topic in the real estate industry.
No,
so.
not stupid. I just, for me, people look at it 2 ways. They look at Zillow as something that's intimidating. Realtors look at it as it's intimidating. We're looking at it more from a consumer standpoint today. I think they're important. I think all of these websites, they've done a good job of forcing realtors to up their technology, to force them to up their game. Because right now the consumer now has access to information that back in the day only realtors had. So some people poo-poo Zillow, they poo-poo, the Redfins and
Poo-poo.
Realtor.coms
I like that.
and Trulias. I don't. I think it ups our game. I think it forces us to up our game. I think there's a lot of different things that, we can talk about. I'm sure we're going to touch on a couple of those topics today. Is it the ability for them to search? The fact that Nick and I were talking before you got here, you were running a bit late.
Who was that?
But for sale by owners, that's something people don't talk about a lot with Zillow. Zillow, when they open the door to for sale by owners, the market for sale by owners skyrocketed. So the statistic is every year, 25% more people are listing for sale by owner now. 90% of them still fail. 9 out of 10 people end up failing, needing a realtor. But Zillow has now opened the door to this whole new market of people saying, you know what, I got Zillow, so I'll list my home myself. Do I think that's smart? No, I think the consumer's a lunatic to list by themselves. I think that most realtors, we're searching on the MLS. We're not searching on Zillow for homes. So there's a lot of things we can talk about, and I think it's obviously a hot topic.
Yeah, apparently everybody's in the business, right? So you own your own brokerage, and of course, Nick, you own your own mortgage company, and I'm a realtor. But obviously, I think we can all agree that we kind of have the same feeling towards Zillow. So that's why I thought it would
mixed
be
emotions.
right.
I
So
have serious mixed emotions.
today,
about it.
whereas every Thursday we have guests and we interview them on their point of view about a specific topic, I think today is more of a conversation between the three of us as to how we can elevate our consumers' IQ about these third-party websites, specifically Zillow. I know that, Nick, you're very passionate about the topic and you have a ton to say, so why don't we go ahead and start the conversation?
Well, the message here is, we're not. By no means am I telling. Am I going to try and do a show about not using Zillow? Because
There's no way around it, though.
in full disclosure, I use it a lot. I use it from a marketing standpoint. I actually get clients from Zillow. Zillow is a twofold situation. They're there for the consumer, but they're also there for the industry. A lot of the biggest producing realtors in the industry buy their leads from Zillow. And I think when we can educate the consumer on how they're meeting their agents, they can make their own decisions. Right now, let's back up and talk about the history of Zillow real quick. Who are they? They are literally becoming the Amazon of real estate. And what does that mean? It's going to force out Toys R Us, which means some people, like you said earlier, Mo, that aren't ready to up their games are going to get phased out by technology because Zillow is making everybody up their games with technology. Every realtor pretty much needs to have a website that a consumer can access, an IDX, where a consumer can access the MLS. If you
It
don't
used
have
to
one,
be that, right? As realtors, we were brought up thinking, okay, you have to have a website so that you can have,
it's just
you can capture buyers and you can capture sellers, but it's not the case anymore. People are not. They're
well,
only
I don't
going
mean
to
that.
our
Just to
websites
search,
for bios.
they like to search properties, so you'd rather have them searching on your website than anywhere else, if that's possible. But who is Zillow and where do they come from? Really, they started, and I want to say roughly, I remember when this launched in the mortgage industry, roughly around 03, 04, and they were pretty much just an evaluation website. You went on there, it gave you this value. You punch in your address, and it'll tell you what it's worth. But we all knew right out of the gate that was skewed info. And to this day, they still, one of their biggest tools that a lot of people go to Zillow for is to get a value on their property. The Zestimate.
Damn Zestimate.
The Zestimate has
joke.
been, this is where we can beat up on Zillow easily, and criticize the Zestimate, because the Zestimate has been, in some cases, it's accurate if you're living in like a common area where, you're on a block with 400 bungalows. It's pretty easy to give a value to your place because there's comparables right there. And, but in some neighborhoods, every house is different.
Yeah.
Square footage is different. When was it sold? What condition was it in? Did it have an addition since the last time public record? Anything could have happened to the houses. So in those cases, I've seen Zestimates be off 30%, 40% even on appraised values. And I'm sure you've seen it as a realtor as well.
They admit it. If you read the fine print, they admit that they're pretty far off on their estimates. So I get that all the time. I'm sure Karla does too. Well, Zillow said my house is this much. I'm like, Zillow didn't come take a look at your damn house. So
Right.
they don't know what your home's worth.
Yeah.
And I think you hit a couple things. It's one of those things where, yes, technology, Zillow kind of led the march to this whole tech thing in real estate. And there's
I
a
think
lot
so.
of people playing now in that
And Redfin is
sector.
right there with
Yeah.
them, but that
They're a
those guys for a
brokerage
whole
now.
other, they're probably for a whole other show.
We could spend a couple hours
Right,
on them.
right.
And they're a controversy now, too. And, hey, listen, whether you like them, you hate them, you're indifferent to them, both of them are around to stay. They're billion-dollar companies.
They're not going anywhere.
Zillow now owns Trulia. Neither one of them are going anywhere. So you have to elevate your game in so many different ways to compete with them. From a realtor standpoint, you mentioned a lot of the top realtors are using Zillow to get leads. I think for a top realtor with a big budget, and we're going to, I'm sure, touch on that.
Yep.
It works. But for the early, newer agent, I don't think it works because you're stuck against the big boys who are, I won't name any names. There's a couple guys in Chicago who throw some big numbers around every month to Zillow. You show up with one past sale, one past review, and he's got, 300 past sales, 300 past reviews. You're going to lose out. So that's
More times than not. You might get in there and
a little bit.
get a lick in.
They
But
sell impressions, right? They don't sell leads. So it's how many times you show up. And I won't get into poo-pooing the parts of that I don't love.
no, we will.
We will? Are we going to get into it?
Oh, that's what they need to know about.
Okay, so here, then let me put this out there then. My problem with Zillow from a broker owner standpoint, owning a brokerage and then looking at myself like a realtor is, you're promising me impressions. We're sharp guys. Karla's a sharp gal. How the hell do I know I'm getting 1,000 impressions? And how do I quantify my ROI on my money spent? So if I spend $1,000 on Zillow and I sit back and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this many impressions. How do I know how many leads I'm going to get? I don't. And when I would call Zillow, my Zillow rep's actually my Facebook friend. He's probably going to be like, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
When
I don't think it's going to be one of those kind of shows.
not
I think
at
it's
all.
the truth
Because I
is
got to
what
give
it
him,
is.
I got to give him credit where credit's due. But when I call Zillow and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not getting leads or we're not getting leads. Well, up your profile, up your past sales. It's like, hey, listen, we as a brokerage, we got a ton. I'm a top producing agent, but a new agent can't do that. Well, how are they going to go get more past sales right now when they're advertising with you? So I don't love that model of impressions, but it works for them. They're a billion-dollar business and it works for them. So I don't love it from the realtor buying leads portion. And I also, for realtors listening and consumers, like Nick said, you should know that this is what realtors are doing. Remember that lead is a coldish lead. That's a 5% chance of closing. Realtors buy leads all the time and they get pissed at Zillow, and you shouldn't. They're not going to be 100% closure rate. I hear realtors all the time like, I bought leads and
There's
they're
a lot
not
of window
great.
shoppers on there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of window shoppers.
But that's
on
what
there.
it's for. You know, it's a search. It started off, Zestimate, then
Right.
search engine, and now they have so many miscellaneous things. But realtors, what did you expect? You're going to spend $500 a month and you're going to get 10 perfect leads that you're going to close and make $50,000 a month? That's not going to happen. It's not realistic.
Well,
Can I ask a question though? Like, so we're getting into the whole lead generation system and how you are applying it in your own individual businesses. But as a consumer, why do I care how that affects your
Well-
business versus how it affects me?
that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for us to get wrapped up in our industry side of it.
Yeah.
But like, here's what a consumer needs to know. First, back about, again, the more you understand the background of an institution, the better you understand their motives. And also, how does that translate to you as a consumer?
Right.
And so, historically, they started out, as we said, just as an appraisal evaluation website. I don't even know what the purpose was. I'm like, okay, great. So everybody knows what their house is worth. And by the way, not really that well, because it's somewhat incorrect. But as it evolved, it became such a generator of traffic that they started to sell leads, you, the consumer, to real estate agents. Now, how did that work back then? Back then is different from today. Back in the day, they used to actually let an agent buy a zip code. So if you're shopping in zip code 60607, okay, Karla Mina might have been willing to be the number one agent in 60607, or she was guaranteed X amount of leads that come through that zip code to come to her. And let's say Mo wanted to be, get 20% of leads. So they would sell like the zone, if you will, to multiple agents, and then the zone would fill up because they couldn't provide any more leads. So it was impressionary, if you will. Mm-hmm. Since then, they've gone public. I mean, they had that model out, then they went public. And when they went public, the big question for a lot of people at Zillow was, how are you going to raise profit to keep your shareholders and your investors happy? And they came out with this bidding war process for agents, which is like, oh, hey, you were number one last week, but, Karla Mina is now spending $3,000 a month in this particular town. Oh, well, I got to be number one so I can get the most amount of impressions. Okay, well, you're going to have to spend $3,300 a month. So this turns into a bidding war. The haves versus the have-nots now of agents. So this is where it can be frustrating, and you, the consumer, should know that, yes, you are dealing with probably the wealthiest realtor in the area, more times than none, or someone that's got some, at the very least, you know that you have a good agent on your hands, because for someone to dedicate to spending $10,000 a month on Zillow, that means they've sold a lot of homes as well.
Right.
So
You're
that's
either good or crazy, or both.
Or they're crazy, so you have to be careful with that. So, to the consumers, I say, yeah, you're going to have some people out there with a lot of reviews, but you might want to also look at the past sales. If they've only sold 4 homes in the last year, do you really want that person helping you with your transaction? But if they've sold 40 homes in the last year as an independent agent, that's a pretty solid agent, right? So you should be aware of that. If they're placed first, second, third, fourth, that's where they fell in the pecking order. Now, that might not, or might help you, or might not make you make a good or bad decision or influence you at all, I should say. But at least you know that, there's a very large investment in you to decide on them. And I would think that agent would take you that much more seriously.
I'd hope so.
I would think. I would hope so. I mean, if I'm spending a lot of money on a lead source, I would take that lead very seriously. But at the same token, knowing that people are bidding to get your attention is somewhat frightening.
Yeah. I mean,
I would think so.
I agree. I think for the consumer, you got to know how the person who just contacted you, and to answer Karla's question, Nick touched on it, they're paying to get in contact with you. I'm a big relationship guy. They're paying a lot of money, especially
it's getting,
now.
because they're publicly traded now. So, like, if you talk to a Zillow rep, it's like talking to someone from the movie Boiler Room.
Yeah,
Like it
they're on
seriously
you
is.
like
They're like,
crazy.
well, you spending $3,000, but you got to go up to 3,100. I need a 6-month contract and this and that, and this is how we get you up here, and this is how you come first position. And then they're sending you off to do more work. You got to fix your website. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's like, holy cow, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Karla, I mean, you're a business too in the lending business. It's a relationship business. So I think, we buy leads. Realtors buy leads. It's just the nature of our business. Now we do it to supplement. But what I think consumers should know is what you're doing is when you're clicking, let me talk to this person, they've paid to get in touch with you. I'm big on relationships. If you want a realtor as a consumer, I think you got to talk to people you know. Get somebody who comes highly recommended. I still think that old school way of doing getting a realtor is the best way to go.
I agree.
And I think, especially to the consumers that want to do this for sale by owner. When Zillow, again, being publicly traded now and very intelligent, the people who run Zillow are brilliant. From a business standpoint, you don't become a billion-dollar company.
I don't
without
hate
being
on them.
geniuses. Yeah, no,
you
I don't
can't.
either. I mean, I don't like some of the things they do. I don't hate on them. They did the for sale by owner thing because now they can sell more impressions. So they know, Zillow's no dummy. They know that we are not going to be as effective at selling your home as realtors are. But, consumer, when I get your job of selling your home on Zillow, guess what happens? I get to sell more impressions to people. So I have more impressions available. And I don't think consumers know that because they're like, oh, it's just a big name. And I think consumers don't know because I'll ask Karla, do you search Zillow for properties at night? I don't. I search the MLS.
I
Well,
guess
you
that's
have
what
the
we
access.
kind of have to clarify, though, Mo and Nick. It's that the concept of Zillow, what it means to us as a tool, right? Do we, like what you just said, do we use Zillow to look for properties in the evenings? We don't. But just so everybody understands, Zillow, it's a third-party website. It's a, let's call it Craigslist, Redfin, Homes.com, what have you. It's a third-party website. If you're selling property, you're going to put it into the multiple listing service, which is the system that we use as realtors, and we pay membership to that as part of our board, whatever fees, what have you, right? Our dues. But if you can be like a Redfin agent, you could be a Coldwell Banker agent, Dreamtown, what have you, Sue Familia. You're always going to put your listings in the multiple listing service. The only thing that's not in the MLS, well, actually it is, it's for sale by owners. There's people who pay for, some transaction fee to get on the MLS, and that's fine. But you always go into the MLS to list your property. Once the property's in the MLS, it gets syndicated to these third-party websites. Zillow just became very smart, very astute in the way that it is positioned in the marketplace because buyers think that, I have accessibility to this information that realtors didn't want to give us. Well, the fact is you don't have instant information because sometimes the information is not updated right away. It takes them 48 hours to syndicate, sometimes 24 hours depending on the brokerage, right? It takes us as soon as we put it into the system, it goes right away because Coldwell Banker has, deep pockets and we're able to optimize our presence online. But, you're still not getting information where a property is already under contract. And I hate it when
Happens all
clients
the
say
time.
that. And they're like, why haven't you sent me that property? And I'm like, well, because we made your criteria specific to brick homes, or we made your criteria specific to non-vintage, So you're looking at all these things, and that's why it's coming out of your parameters. But believe it or not, if we put it in your parameters, in your search criteria in the MLS, you're going to be the first person to know that it's available, or you'll be the first person to know that it's under contract. And that's one of the things that Zillow can't do for you.
Mo scratched the surface about a minute ago regarding Zillow and getting the good referral from a trusted source, like a close friend or a bunch of friends that have used this particular agent to make their decision and buy their property. That's great. What I think consumers should be aware of is that, full disclosure, my company, iLoan, has spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on Zillow.
Full disclosure, mine too.
Right. So I know what I'm buying, and I know why I'm buying it to get in front of the consumer. We try all sorts of things: mail to internet leads to radio to TV to radio
so then why
shows.
do you sound like you're so upset?
Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and it's definitely up for discussion. Is Amazon good or bad for the economy? We can get that discussion off the radio one day.
What is the misconception that you're
about,
questioning, though?
Well, there's a lot of great agents. One thing that I have to do when we meet agents like yourselves is we sit down and we oftentimes strategize as business partners on how to co-market where we could generate more business for ourselves, both the mortgage company and the realtor. And a lot of times when I sit down and do this, I look at the independent agent, who's an amazing agent, because I probably wouldn't be sitting down with someone that doesn't have a ton of experience at this point in my career. And instantly, if it's like a 15-year veteran, they're good with networking, they're out on the street, they work on a pure referral basis, but they want to get some stuff out there. The last thing I do is tell them you should get on Zillow because it's not their lifestyle. However, this is an amazing agent, and you're never going to meet them if you make your decision purely on finding the best agent on Zillow.
Oh, I agree.
So not every great agent is on Zillow. Now, don't get me wrong. Zillow has made it a have or have not game where majority of the time now, you're going to get a pretty decent agent to afford to be number one or number two. It's not like you get these agents that are throwing $500 into Zillow anymore. There was a plethora of those back before they went public.
So just to
That
confirm
changed.
your statement, what you're saying is basically if an agent can afford to be on Zillow, they're going to be
They
great
have a lot of
because
experience because they have to pay that bill.
They have an advantage of being
If
able
they're
to
towards the
finance the
top.
expenses.
If they're towards the top,
However, you also said that there's some good agents who are not on Zillow or top, partners on Zillow on the
Right.
top when people are searching. Because remember, when you're searching for a property, you're clicking in on the address, you
Right.
type it in, right? So whatever, the address pops up, and then to the right, there's the 3 agents, and your mind automatically assumes that's the listing agent of this property. I'm going to contact them for more information, but it's not true. These are the people who paid to be premium, right, on the Zillow.
My best
the
agents
website.
are not on Zillow. They are at a point in their careers where they're self-producing
Right.
leads
So
and they
that's
don't
the
need it.
question. So what do you say to an agent what do you say about an agent who's not on Zillow and it's not spending $8,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month so they can
if
be
you've got
on
some
Zillow?
great referrals, like Mo was saying, from a lot of people that have used Karla Mina, for example, and they're like, she's great, she knows what she's doing, she's been doing it for 10 years, my family's used her, the whole 9 yards, I would start there and treat that agent, the Karla Mina example, just as serious as I might the lead of Mo on Zillow.
It's a
And then I'd
business
make my
plan,
decision,
right?
but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be committed to just this site to make my decision. See, I know people that purely shop on Amazon now. If it's not on Amazon, it's probably more expensive elsewhere, so they won't buy it. That's what's happening.
It's not that. It's more of the convenience,
And
right?
there's
I know a
people like
lot of
that-
clients who are shopping online
It's
for
convenience.
groceries because, Karla, by the time I get to the grocery store, by the time I find a nanny, I've spent the money, right? Or my young millennials, by the time I've spent money on renting a car to go or
But
paying
at
for
some
an Uber
point-
to go to the grocery store, I've spent that money. I might as well just be at work and take a 15-minute break, and it automatically saves and stores my selections. Just like Zillow, it's instant gratification because they have accessibility to
not.
something that they were forbidden from.
It's not instant gratification. At some point, you're going to have to meet and speak with the agent.
I understand that, but we're talking about the accessibility of information, which is what people want.
So Karla, you hit something on the head there. I have a tech company that we're launching at the beginning of May, and I've done a lot of research recently what a consumer wants in the tech world. They want access to information, right? The average consumer now can click a couple buttons and they can get access to so much information. And they want that. And one of the things that Zillow does give them
Tons
is
of
that
it.
They have all, like, what school district is it in? How
Everything.
much, how much are the
Everything.
taxes? They get that information right in their hands. So that's where I was saying, the average agent really has to elevate their knowledge, because if you don't, the access to information's all there. And it's what people want. Consumers are never going to be okay with now going back and not having information anymore. You get a little beep.
Yeah, I'm hearing some kind of a beep. I don't know
Beep,
what
beep.
that beep is.
But for me, Karla, you said something business plan. I think we missed it. I tell our agents, don't shy away from using Zillow. Don't shy away from using it because consumers will be on it. But make sure, this is my recommendation, and it's a little agent recommendation. I take 10% of anything that I make and I set it aside as my marketing budget. And if I have some funds left for buying leads, I might do that. It's not my number one.
Right.
It's not what I would do number one, but I set the 10% aside. And when that 10% grows, I might then take that 10% and use it. But Zillow, all these websites, they give the consumer a lot of info.
They do, but they also, at this point in the game, are the biggest advertiser to the consumer, are the most available. The minute you hit buy a home in the Google search, they're up there number 1 or 2.
I love how
And
you say that they spend a lot of money. They're the largest advertisers, and the question that
Zillow
people
themselves,
always
the
have,
corporation,
yeah,
is spending a ton of money to stay at the top of your Google search or Yahoo search or whatever search engine you use. And that's called advertising.
right. It's advertising. A lot of people don't like to be sold, they say,
But
and that's why
you
they
gotta walk
don't
in
want
the
to
door.
work with realtors who are very pushy because they don't want to be sold.
They're a lead
But
machine. They're not realtors. That's the difference between Redfin and Zillow. They're not pushy. They just put you in front of stuff.
So what's the option? What's the alternative if you're not doing the Zillow?
Okay. A lot like here. Let's discuss pizza,
Okay.
right? Who's the biggest? I'm a pizza connoisseur, right? Who is the best pizza in Chicago? Go ahead. Give me your rip. Which one's your favorite?
I can't.
You can't tell your
I
favorite
don't
pizza
eat
place?
pizza anymore.
Oh, okay. You're Lou Malnati's?
Lou Malnati's
I agree. That's a really good one. I kind of like Pequod's on a
love
deep dish,
Pequod.
but
Oh, Pequod's is good, right?
Lou Malnati's is great. Okay.
Okay,
However,
focus.
I'm on a diet.
However-
As soon as you start talking sports and pizza, I can't
however,
control this group.
and maybe Chicago's a bad example, but because we are like the pizza capital of the world, but however,
New
the
York
most
wouldn't think
popular,
that.
the most known pizza place around anywhere in the country is Domino's.
Yeah, it is.
And let's face it, if you compare Illuminati's next to
fancy pizza I tell my
Domino's,
kids.
but how do we get this Illuminati's things going? People have word of
$5
mouth.
pizza.
But
I'm
the,
sorry.
the Illuminati's or the local Chicago brand is a word of mouth thing. It's not very glamorized on the streets. Like, I mean, you turn on a football game and you're going to watch 15 Papa John's commercials. You
Okay.
get what I'm saying? So you can't stop, whether the product is better or worse, you can't stop the 800-pound gorilla from getting in your face and being number one and almost influencing your decision drastically. Now, logic again would tell you, if these agents are spending that much money, they must be big producers. I want a big producer. I'm paying. I deserve the best of the best, right? However, there's another thing you have to be aware of when you go to Zillow and you pick your agent. The new phenomenon, the biggest buyers of leads like yourself as a consumer on Zillow are usually teams. Those are the
Because they
biggest
can
buyers.
afford
What does
it.
that mean, Matt? You want to go into that, Mo?
Well, you might not be getting the big swing.
You might get the main. You're not getting the main guy. Like if it's the Mo Dodka team,
You're probably not getting me. You're getting a buyer's agent who might not have a whole lot of experience.
and there you have it.
Because by the time somebody gets to a team, if they're smart and they've waited till they have a lot of business to create a team, they have a big budget. Usually a big team's got a big budget, and yes, the big guy on the team is typically taking listing agreements. Here you're doing listing presentations, meeting some clients, but the average buyer, he's probably not taking out on the weekend. Like you and I probably take out our buyers on the weekend. Somebody else might be like, hey, listen, I only do listings. I'm going to do, show up, hug people, kiss babies, and that's it. But they're not taking buyers out.
So I guess what we're all talking about here, specifically you, Nick, you're talking about marketing and branding and people, and this Zillow presence is everywhere because of the budget that's being allocated to get in front of consumers.
Don't
So-
be fooled by all the bells and whistles.
Right,
is
but
what
we
we're trying to tell
understand that. I
them.
mean, there's a lot of marketing dollars being thrown, or invested into, right, the world so that everybody can capture a business or an audience, right? So why frown upon it though? I'm still confused as to, or you're now saying that there's different business plans, right? There's groups. Okay, so the people who are able to advertise in Zillow are people who can afford it. Are not people, but are agents who can afford it, and most of the agents that can afford it come in the form of teams because they're producing leads to create volume for their other agents. So now you're frowning on the team.
No, I'm
setup?
not frowning. You need to be aware that you're looking at a team leader with 300 reviews and who's closed 400 properties in the last year, which we know is physically impossible for one human being to really do by themselves.
But they're still
Something's
successful
going
at
on.
closing that volume.
Well, hold on.
regardless
They
of
get
how
the
did
credit.
it.
They get the credit, but they have 5 team members underneath who now aren't nearly as astute or as
Potentially as a
they're usually newer, which no frowning on a new agent because we all started somewhere, right? But you're buying the glamorized team leader, and you might be getting an 18-month veteran to go on your showings. So
Well,
it's just our
yeah,
purpose of
I
today's
agree
show
with
is
that.
beware of what you're doing.
Right.
Look, Mo hit it on the head. The amount of awareness they give, the thesaurus of real estate and mortgage help and all of that is amazing. I recommend a lot of consumers to go there and get educated.
Right.
Sure, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's right up there with, .org sites about how to go through processes.
They got one of the best blogs. I mean,
Right.
to give them some props,
Yeah.
their informational
this?
blog stuff.
Zillow.
Zillow's blog is strong. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think their information. I mean, it's hard to find. Actually, if anybody from Zillow listens, not that anybody is listening to me and taking my advice, your blog should be front and
are.
center because your information is good. It's great. I just think
Almost all of it.
I think that the consumer thinks of them as like the end all be all and like I'm going to go to Zillow and I'm going to get the best of the best. And that's the thing, consumers, it's not where you should be selling your home. If you're going to, like you said, hire an agent, do a little more research. I'm big again. do some research. Usually somebody you know has a good relationship with a realtor. You don't have to find the information there. Don't necessarily try to find your agent there.
I don't necessarily think that a
But
consumer wants to go to Zillow to
the
find
other-
a realtor, though. That's where the
They,
misconception
oh, they're doing
is.
it. Here's what they're
I
doing.
think the consumer is shy. The consumer is looking for information. Nick, you've been in this business for a long time. You know buyers are so, like, the first thing they do is shop for the home, right? They start looking at what can I do before they even think of a budget, before they even think to reach out to a lender. Why is it that lenders are not the first point of reference when investing in Zillow? You first put the realtor, and then you support the realtor in a budget. You're not seeing Graco's Funes picture. You're not seeing Nick Memeti's picture. You're putting the realtor first.
Wait.
They're not going.
See, you haven't been on Zillow in a while. There's a lender section too.
There is a
They
lender,
can literally,
but
and we
it's-
do buy those leads too, where they just say they do start with lenders, and it's a full blown.
I just don't think the buyers are going to Zillow to find a realtor. They're going in there to get access to the information that
no.
they're searching because
no,
they're.
What
no,
I think
'cause we-
Karla's saying is, what you had said a little bit before is they're clicking. Are you saying they click on the property and they think that's the listing agent?
They want to know
because it
more
confuses
information about the
them.
specific
But it's
property.
not.
That's
They've
the
recently-
purpose. That's why they're so successful.
They have recently, Zillow has recently changed the system where if you click on a property, the listing agent is actually first.
Right.
And it says listing agent.
But
And then
very
the-
ba-
right,
like
right underneath
barely.
them.
No, it's
right,
barely.
yeah,
It's like really
it
fine
does say
print.
it though.
It does.
It does
but
say it.
Again,
I've had
Be aware.
realtor, or I've had like very savvy consumers, very intelligent, not first time buyers, who are sending me properties, and I'm like, it's pending, it's already under contract. But because they're going to this website not to find a realtor, but to search for the information.
And
Zillow
that's-
created, like you said. They have marketing dollars. They have an amazing platform where they created a cool hangout which is really fun, which is very intuitive, and people can search it. They can see all the photos. They can see all the information. They feel like they have
Right.
access to the information. So they call me and say, by the way, I found a property for me that
We
I
have
really like. I
clients
want
like
you to
that.
find this. And it's like, okay,
Yes.
but let me get you the information.
but let me tell you a scary fact, because I buy this stuff. I think I'm probably the biggest buyer right now in the room because I buy it not only for myself, but I help other agents when they make decisions on how to buy it. Their numbers are growing. The traffic is growing. The amount of people that are applying to speak with an agent is significantly growing. If you don't see that, then you're in denial. Now, I'm not saying that they're the end-all be-all. Let's first of all start with where you can make a really bad turn with Zillow. I want to sell my house, and the only agent I know is Mo. I heard he's great.
That's a good
and
option.
I heard he's great.
Outstanding option.
I've heard of Mo and Karla, right? And I heard they're both great. They got a plethora of experience, and I should contact them because a lot of my friends have used both of them, right? But before I call them, I want to go in somewhat educated to be prepared for the conversation, and also just make sure Mo's not trying to pull wool over my eyes. I still don't know Mo yet, but I heard he's good. So I go to Zillow. I get my Zestimate, and ask me how many times this has happened in life. I get my Zestimate. It's legitimately $50,000 off on a $300,000 property, whether it's too high or too low, whatever the case is. And I call Mo and I say, hey, Mo, I want to list my house. Mo says, I did a complete market analysis. And then Karla comes in the next day trying to list the same house as well. I did a complete market analysis. Mo says I could probably sell it for $310. Karla says $315. Both very good realtors. I think they're both crazy because the Zestimate said $350, right? So I kick you both to the curb. And now I go find somebody, which is probably not a good agent if they're taking the listing just to take it and say, yeah, we could do it at $350. And now it sits on the market forever. Correct? This happens,
Yeah,
and this
but
has happened.
I bet you
So
when
Zestimates
Karla,
have steered people wrong.
but they usually tell you. I mean, I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. You go on a listing presentation and say, well, Zillow said that. A good agent like Karla and I will explain to them why the Zestimate stinks. Because it happens to me. I mean, not that much anymore, but I get a couple people every once in a while. They're like, "Hey, I see your CMA, but what about my Zestimate?" And then I can explain it. I'm sure you've had that, right, Karla, where somebody says that, and then you're able to just say, "Hey, well, Zillow's not here right now to look at your house."
We do it all the time,
And it's-
but I
and-
deal with it in this
And
aspect.
it's just let's go back also from the consumer perspective as to what we're talking about. And I think originally, Nick, you talked about different business plans, as you mentioned before. Not all agents are on Zillow. Specifically, I don't invest in Zillow because
Majority of them are not.
Right. So, but it's a different business plan, right? Because if I did have a huge team and I needed to produce for that team, And I'm going to touch on the whole like team mentality as well. It just doesn't work for me. I'm a different type of agent, right? I'm a referral base. I would say, shoot, 75% of my business is referrals. You know, it's I'm done business with someone and they respect me and they respect my opinion. But, you know, that's my business plan. And that's, you know, how I build. It's networking. It's how I build my business. I've been in business for 14 years and that's how I sustain it. So it's a different type of mentality. I'm not calling someone who looked at a listing and I'm not going to call them and pretend like that listing is mine because I just can't do it. I just can't put myself to say,
That's
hey,
not how it works.
Well,
That's not how it
yes,
works.
but if you're a premier agent and you're getting all these leads, I get leads in my office from my own listings. And then I will say, yes, this is the information about my listing. When would you like to see it? And I know that my listings are being syndicated in third-party websites. And I have Redfin agents calling me on my listings, pretending like they're the listing agents. And that's the lingo that we're getting from people who are coming to our open houses. They've never met this agent, but they're pretending like they're coming to show this property. I also was on Zillow before, so I know that's how it works because I recently got some Zillow leads and they were, you know, and it just doesn't work. So what I'm saying to you is like it's a different mindset.
Well, no,
so
it
if you're a
works.
consumer, it works.
It absolutely works because
It
they're not a
definitely
billion-dollar
works, but
business because it's not
it's a
working.
different business plan for people is what I'm trying to say. And from the consumer's perspective, you touched on, you know, when groups are investing into this platform so they can get leads and they're thinking that they're hiring, you know, so and so, but you're getting, you know, agent A's, I don't know, new agent or a non-tenure agent. And I think that in this marketplace, it's easy to transact. It's easy for you to be a new agent and make a living. It is difficult to be an agent in a marketplace where there is more supply than demand and properties need to be strategically analyzed and you need to come up with a good pricing so that property doesn't stay on the market for a long time because I think that right now listings are controlling the marketplace because there's not a ton of inventory. So even if you do get the market value wrong, the property is going to yield a buyer. It's not that difficult right now. Do you agree? I mean, it would correct itself eventually, but you're saying, you know, somebody's going to come in and give you the wrong value and you're going to take the listing just to take the listing. A lot of agents will take a listing just so they can get leads out of it. Like, that's just how the business goes.
I mean,
I would never do it, but I know people do it.
I wouldn't do it either. I mean,
It's a waste of my marketing time. I don't have that kind of time.
I don't invest in Zillow for my own personal real estate business. One, because I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have a team to do it. But I do for my agents. And we do sometimes get the, hey, are you the listing agent? But I mean, at least we coach our agents. You can't pretend like you're the listing agent.
No.
You're just securing somebody who is potentially so what you're getting is an unrepresented buyer, right? Or what you think is an unrepresented buyer calling you. And then it's your job as a realtor to, you know, convert that person into your own client. And they might be talking to 2 or 3 people that they've clicked on from Zillow, and it's your job to kind of convert that person. So that's why I tell our agents, listen, this better not be the focal point of your business unless you're a rainmaker and you're spending a ton of money and you got a great team of people to kind of cultivate those leads. But I think for a lot of people, it's at least someplace agents begin to look right away. When they have a little bit of a budget and now they have to have a lot bigger budget, they're like, okay, should I go buy leads? Should I not buy leads? I'm a big proponent of do all the relationship building spending first. And if you have extra money left over after you put your 10% aside, that's part of your business plan, then look at doing Zillow. But like what Nick has said recently is that might not be enough anymore. So if you're using some of your supplemental income to try to buy leads, now you got to kind of be the big spender and the big dude who comes in there and spends a lot of money to be able to make a splash.
And again, though, that's like more advice for what a business or a realtor should be doing. But again, the consumer, how do we get them access to information that they don't feel they have? What's the alternative to Zillow?
We just have to up our game. There's no alternative. I don't think there.
Well, the MLS has a system. We can share.
But it's ugly. It's
The-
like
and
if
that's
Emira's
it. That's where I'm
listening,
coming
it sucks,
from.
It's
That's what I'm
ugly,
saying.
it's slow,
What
it's
is it?
archaic.
HomeSnap?
But you don't want our clients don't want us to have to like pick up our phone and send them info. They can pick it up and be like, oh, there's Zillow. I have an app for it, and here's all the information. There's Redfin. There's Trulia. Consumers want information. What we have to do as realtors is up our game and show them that only giving them access to an MLS sheet is not what we do. We have to prove that we're better than that. If we don't, Zillow's going to give them all the information. They're going to give them everything they want, and we are screwed. So bad realtors, if you can't prove that you're worth more than that app showing them some information, you're screwed. I mean, you're done because and consumers want it.
I completely agree.
Consumers want the information, and there's no way to stop them. And Zillow, they're a $1 billion company. They're around to stay, so we best up our game.
Yeah, and
And it's guiding the
there's-
information, you know, because they think they have access to that information, but they don't have access to all of it.
look, let's eliminate the internet in full. At some point back in the day before it existed, everybody paid somehow, some way to get your attention as a
Yeah.
consumer, right? So whether they bought a billboard, a TV commercial, or they put themselves on the busiest street in town, people are paying to get your attention. This is just the other way to do it. So whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia or Redfin, they're all paying a lot of money to get your attention. Now, obviously, when they got your attention and you're in their store, their website, you navigate the site because it's friendly, it's easy. You can save your searches, you can do all these things. Or like you said, the blog is interesting. That's great. That's the dawn of a new era that we're in. Our purpose today was just to teach the consumer that it does have a presence of it's the real estate everything. I mean, they've done a good job of making it look like they can cover the entire spectrum. Whatever you need, just go here and you have it. And that's their job to do that. However, it's to translate so the consumer knows how are these agents finding you as a consumer? How are, what are you clicking and what should you be looking out for when you're clicking?
Yeah, and that's the real deal. That's
And
what we need to tell
are
them.
those Zestimates, the numbers you should be taking to the bank with you? And
No.
definitely not. So, I mean, it's just like any other service. It's not flawless. Far from it, actually. And I think that it's going to be trying to see how they handle this phenomenon of the bidding process because it's getting very expensive. And
I think we're getting
that's going to be interesting.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think that's like the main key. I mean, I sent you guys an article where it says Zillow itself published an article stating the accuracy of their estimate, right? And it's probably 5% in some areas. And it's, like, I don't know how they quantify this information, how they come up with this estimate. Obviously, you guys know I can't even use my phone at times, but that's just way above like my head and how it works. I know that people love it. It's a feel-good app. Like you said, it's a pretty cool hangout. But as for me, like I had a buyer and she was undecided. Her and husband were undecided as to, whether we buy a single family house or we buy a 2-flat or if we stay in Oak Park or if we come to Evanston or if we, they were all over the place or if we go to Old Irving. So we're looking at different neighborhoods. And I was able to pull data to show them like the appreciation in each of those neighborhoods, and some with 6%. And they saw that in the neighborhood that they mostly wanted, it was negative 6%, even though we're saying, property and values are increasing everywhere. It wasn't so in the small pocket that they were searching. So that we were able to get, so move on from that specific neighborhood. But having said that, additionally, we also looked at the prices for a single family. We look for prices in the 2-flat category. So, doing all this research on your own when you're not paying out of pocket for a realtor, it's ridiculous to me, especially because the realtor is being paid from a co-op from the listing agent who has already negotiated a marketing fee for that listing. So I'm providing this person with all this additional information that they would have to break their head to go through on the Zillows. And a lot of consumers are just going on these websites because they have accessibility of information. But to be a real estate investment, which is what it is for you and your family, or for yourself as a millennial, for you as a baby boomer, you have to know what you're doing. I mean, would you buy something without checking in everyone and calling 20 people just to reconfirm?
Yeah, if it's on the internet, it must be true.
I mean, I call you all the
Right?
time.
I mean,
I call
isn't it
Greg
like
all the
that?
time. I call Mo. I call everybody,
But
even
you're
for
a
my
good
own
agent,
investments.
Karla. You're a good agent.
It's-
So it's going to weed out the crap agents, because if the crap agents can only give the data that they see in an MLS sheet to the consumer, then they're no better than Zillow. You're a good agent. You're taking a step further. My thing for consumers is I'll chalk it up as, if you're trying to sell your home on Zillow, you're a moron. Don't do it. It's not going to work. 90% of them
Oh,
fail.
there's the hard fact of the day.
That's what it is. If you're a consumer searching, fantastic data. They got it. A good agent is going to give you more than that. But go there to get data. Go there to get educated. Just know, like what Nick had said, the person that, if you're a buyer, so let's think of him as a seller. If you use Zillow to sell your home, you're a moron. If you're a buyer and you're using Zillow to find your realtor, know what the realtor's doing to get your attention to capture you as a lead.
At least-
That's the good education piece that I think we gave them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and at least ask people that or demand this kind of service, right? So from the listing perspective, I recently put a property on the market, and this is just to show you like the level of intricacy that we're finding in the marketplace. We're in the spring market, and when we're looking at analyzing values for a property, we would go 3 months, but that's still within the height of the market. So then now we want to go back 9 months and study those trends. And it's not something where you're sitting there pulling data and it's like, here's the value. I mean, there is like some really, I mean, I will look at data, like I will pull it, I will look at it, and then I walk away, I'll come back and I'll look at it again. And you have to comb it differently, right? Because then you're analyzing, okay, potentially, because it is the height of the market, if I price it at this level, how many of those homes are listed in that price point? And why would I want to compete with that property versus the other? Do I bring it into this price range, or what about like appreciation within just the spring market? There's such a thing as appreciation for just this market between February to say August or September, where you're probably going to get a premium for something that's a really good property. So like you said, a novice agent, a rookie agent in that team may not sit there and meet with you and consult you as a business, like a business consultation, show you these numbers, because they may not even know where to start. And then is Zillow really going to tell you, okay, you could potentially, it's worth this, but you could potentially get this if you would make the following changes, modifications,
No.
staging recommendations, or repairs? It's not.
That's just like, forget Zillow. When you do a for sale by owner by just throwing your sign out in front of your house, you're entering a very dangerous area. You're not getting proper consultation on how to do this properly. You could be costing yourself thousands of dollars. Zillow is no different from just doing it manually on your own. You should always hire a professional if you're looking for professional results. If you want to do it by yourself, you're going to get those kind of results. But it's been 45 minutes. And we can't do this forever.
And I told you we couldn't talk on Zillow for 45 minutes. I was like, this is going to be painful.
No, it's not painful.
We
And
could
at the end of the
probably go
day,
3 hours.
whether it's Zillow or places like Yelp,
Don't
you
get
have
me
to,
started. I got an hour on Yelp for you guys.
Yelp or all these other
Pretty
sites
much
where
are
they
Yelping us.
rate systems or they rate people. Look, be aware of what you're reading. Make sure you're thorough what you're reading. Everybody works their ass off to make themselves look great online. And at the end of the day, you have to make decisions that are a little bit more calculated.
I look better online.
You use a lot of filters too, Nick.
I look
mean,
better
come
at
on.
night with a few beers than you. You got the memo.
Yeah,
We gotta
have a
wrap
few
this
beers
bad
and
boy
me.
up.
The memo, I get it.
We
Okay,
gotta wrap this bad boy up. So let's do this. Let's thank our sponsors first and foremost, because without them, the bills would not be paid. We're going to Mike Randick and Carmen Carbonara of Stewart Title, Tamika Scott with Money Matters Financial Peace, Denise Edenhofer with Fidelity National Home Warranty, Joanna Diaz with Credit RX, Lisa Husino with Allstate Insurance. Thank you guys all for sponsoring the show today, and of course for sponsoring a bunch of other days as well. If you want to catch this show, or if Zillow wants to pretty much investigate our show and just call us and cease and desist our mouths from
Please do not
speaking,
start
moving
My leads
moving
are
forward.
shut
My
down
lead just got
now.
shut. They're like, yeah, Nick, you're
Thanks,
cut off.
Nick.
No more buying. We apologize, Zillow. We think we were just being informative, but let our consumers make their own decision. You've watched this, or I should say, you've watched this live on Facebook /Market Overdrive. You can also catch this show on YouTube. It was live on YouTube, but it will be cataloged on YouTube, as well as the WGN website or the podcast. Go to the Market Overdrive podcast on iTunes. That is it. Mo, Karla, I'll see you guys next Thursday, 5:30 sharp. Don't be late. All right.
Only first time, Jesus Christ.